Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on the video. Hi, I'm Sketchy, unless you already know me. So, hello, and today thank you for clicking on the video, and today we are watching How Ethical is Neuro-sama Really? To be honest, I would say she is probably, oh yes, before I forget, remember to subscribe to Aria Hero. I didn't mispronounce that, luckily. And remember to like their video. And anyways, let's get on to it. But before we get on to it, I would say Neuro-sama is fairly ethical. I mean, it's all developed by like a small team. It's not like a big ass company. And another thing, it's like they're not using AI art for her, which I think is amazing, to be honest. I think is amazing. And there's like human creativity involved, right? Because obviously you got Vidal. If there wasn't that, I feel like it would be a bit iffy, if that makes sense. But anyways, let's get on to the video.
AI. It's one of the fancy pants new technological innovations of the computer world, but unlike in the past couple of years where the best you got was $20,000 JPEGs, AI actually provides some sort of meaningful value. It's a lot of things depending on who you ask. It could be a heaven-sent way of translating anime, it could be your favorite little programming buddy, or depending on how far gone you are, your therapist. But one thing AI will never be is moral. It's not inherently immoral either because it's just a tool, and like any tool left in the wrong hands will eventually be used for a negative purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like everything, there will always be people out there who'll take things out, who'll take things and, use it in a way it wasn't originally intended. Okay, kind of random. I don't know why I'm bringing up dynamite, but fun fact. Did you know the guy who invented... This is so random. The guy who invented dynamite actually was... it wasn't meant to be used in the way it ended up being. And I think he ended up inventing the Nobel Peace Prize because he was so upset.
The concept of something like image generation on paper should be fine.
Unless I'm wrong.
Because all it's doing is cobbling together an image based off of whatever Labubu you showed it last. But of course, since there's no real regulation in the industry, it may as well be open season for any image to be trained off of. Oftentimes against the consent of the people creating the very thing feeding the beast. Because of this, one of the main problems with anything dealing with AI is the inherent lack of consent in any meaningful way. Those that do find themselves participating oftentimes do because they can't say no. But unlike just a couple of years ago where the most you would get out of ChatGPT is just a very poorly rendered version of Will Smith eating spaghetti, nowadays you can recreate
I miss those days. I miss the days of just having spaghetti.
Nowadays you can recreate entire art styles from established artists. You do have your Twitter sleuths here and there that can whip out AI in just under a few seconds, because one thing it still struggles with after all this time is remaining consistent. But keep in mind, these kinds of people are trained for years on end to spot this sort of stuff out simply because they were in the industry for so long. Your average internet user likely won't even know what they're seeing is AI until after they're told. And if it's good enough for them, you may as well be preaching to the choir. Don't even waste your breath. Most people wouldn't care if you used it for like a dumb internet meme, but when it's good enough to the point where it genuinely threatens jobs, it's not all that hard to understand why artists avoid it like it's a plague. And it really doesn't help the case for AI being nothing but a bandit's nest when you've got top CEOs saying things like, if training a model isn't fair use, then the AI race is over, while monetizing its use. Or other ones saying things like glazing your art is considered abuse. Being that VTubers exist in a space that depends on an artist for them to be able to exist at all, you'll find most VTubers echo some if not all of the same opinions. But what if I told you there existed a VTuber that made AI their entire brand? What if I told you that this one VTuber was also branded the only ethical use of it? What if I told you okay, let me stop. You know who the frick Neuro is.
Everyone hates you, Vidal. Why would I waste my time being nice to you when nobody ever is?
Amassing a total of over 1.6.
Honestly, I have never actually watched like a full Neuro-sama live stream. I watched like the 3D concert type thing, and I've watched clips from time to time, maybe listen to a song, but I wouldn't say like, I'm not a person who watches a lot of live streams, so, yeah.
million followers across Twitch and YouTube, affectionately referred to as the Swarm. It's a safe bet to say that anyone that knows this corner of the internet even exists has heard of Nero. But like any creator you can find on the planet, Beetle will attract some haters for what he has created.
Honestly, I feel like that's it's kind of a fitting name, like, or for this one, like, with evil Neuro-sama. I feel like the Swarm, it suits her better. I don't know. It sounds ominous, but
knows this corner of the internet
it's just Neuro-sama, you know.
But like any creator you can find on the planet, Beetle will attract some haters for what he has created. But it's a bit different with Nero because of the odd space it exists in. Most hate for your average creator amounts to nothing more than like an I don't like this guy because his shoes are red. But when it comes to Nero, most of the hate she would garner would be because of perceived hypocrisy. How do you have someone branding themselves as AI in a space that's like 95-5 split against it? Everybody has that one or two things that they are hypocritical in, but why is Nero that one exception for VTubers? Because AI can and will be used in an unethical way if it can be, there isn't any way but one in order to say an AI is ethical or not. And that's generally going to be through its training data. No one has a problem with how AI functions so long as everybody was in agreement with how the data was used. So the first immediate consideration is, where does Nero's come from? Straight out of Vettel himself, she's fine-tuned using Twitch chat transcripts. Now, there are some and far in between that take this to mean that she's trained using only Twitch chat. Now, I will admit, reading over the internet do be...
Imagine if she was only trained on Twitch. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, and like is only trained on Twitch chat. No wonder, because like I know some things like she used to say back in her early days until her filters got better. But like, no wonder she said those things. Just because of Twitch chat, you know.
Be hard. I struggle doing it myself. Fine-tuned means there's some other amalgamation of data. And for a lot of people online, that's already starting to raise some eyebrows. If you've been on Twitch for more than 5 seconds, you know how Twitch chat tends to be. Because it's a very informal place, we'll call it. You will never be able to come up with an AI that can formulate anywhere near a coherent sentence, because it can be summed up as nothing more than GG good play, emote span, and a couple of slurs here and there. So the only real way she can construct anywhere near a comprehensible sentence would be by using an open source baseline model. So the question is, what is Nero's baseline model? And that is a very good question.
We don't know. I feel like he's gonna say we do. Oh wait, no, but if it's ethical, okay, we probably do.
The best LLMs we know of are absolutely using copyrighted works. To pretend otherwise would be wishful thinking. For that reason alone, the idea that Nero could ever be completely clean is a pipe dream. But be that as it may, why are there so many online that can so outwardly show support for something that they would consider to be a taboo in almost any other case?
I think it's just because it's developed by one guy. Well, not one guy, but him and his team, and I guess she was in the right place at the right time. I think I would put it that way. Plus, there's, like, she collabs with humans. It's not just AI with AI, right? Because what is AI serving the purpose for?
When it comes to text-based copyrighted works, it's considered to be a lot more acceptable to use them in cases like this. How many times have you ever thought of the guy that might have been stolen from every time you use the Google Gemini AI-generated responses? Those responses themselves might be like 99% Reddit, but even Reddit itself is not completely clean. If you look hard enough, you will find somebody using a copyrighted work in one way or another. Maybe someone just like posts some art that they found on like...
Well, like, there's copyrighted works everywhere. Like, you could never protect your work 100%, especially nowadays, obviously, with AI, as he's talking about. But, like, you can never, someone is gonna take it. Someone's gonna take at least, like, one paragraph of it, right? Like, even before AI was a thing, that was bound to happen in some way or another, right?
Like a random forum and it gets a couple of likes. But despite copyright, most of us never even gave that sort of an interaction a second thought, if we ever even bothered to give it a first. So while she might not be completely clean herself, it would be just as disingenuous to have the expectation that she should be spotless. it's impossible. The second reason has to do with how the end product is intended to serve its audience. Even if the end goal was achieved through unethical means, if no one is entirely replaced, or if the end product is perceivably improving what was already there, nobody really cares that AI was used.
Or if it like hasn't hurt anyone.
But that in itself really varies based on
although
the
some people are 100%
in this case, Neuro
against
herself
it.
doesn't stream on her own.
In my opinion, it can be used as a tool when that tool isn't hurting anyone, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like in medical fields, right, like it could come up with so many things which could help us, right, like curing different diseases, doing all that, you know, like millions of times faster than we could, but than like humans could. But at the same time, I guess you could say it's a tad shit, but you know.
Without someone watching her, because the last time she was left alone for more than 5 minutes, she became brought for a day. And while it doesn't leave a direct net positive on the streaming industry as a whole, it doesn't exactly take away from it either. You could Thanos snap Neuro away right now and the entire streaming landscape stays exactly the same as it was about 5 years ago. Anyone that knows who she is knows she's AI. Anyone not okay with it already isn't watching. So do they have the grounds to dictate whether or not someone who doesn't care should be able to watch it? But before you answer that, there is another important factor that you need to consider. Perception. You'll find no shortage of opinions online coasting along the lines of, you only like the AI because it's an anime girl. Now before you go writing this off as just random people on the internet being jealous of Neuro's success, you do at least need to consider the possibility. If you put 100 people who liked anime but then hated AI into a room but then showed them Neuro, a lot more of them...
Well, yeah, to be honest, I mean... Yeah, to be honest, I would say people, like, when it comes to this, you know, obviously there's, like, an attraction bias. Like, I think it's, like, if someone's pretty or something, they're more likely to get away with a crime. It's just human nature. It's just human nature.
Would cut it way more slack on account that it's presented
which
in a way
is
that
quite
they're
sad
already
thing,
comfortable
but, you
with.
know.
I personally don't believe that to be the case for Neuro, but dismissing that entirely would be just as ridiculous. Because it's a really sad rule over the internet that if you do something unethical or something that would be perceived to be bad by any other person, if the internet likes you enough, you will be absolved. Like, this is a very observable trait. The reason behind Neuro getting that exception boils down to how creative Vettel got with using Neuro. It's not like Neuro is just like any other AI you would find on the internet, where it's obvious that their one intended goal is just to make as much money as possible scamming others. Neuro does it in a way that actually makes it feel like the end consumer is gaining something out of it. Karaoke, controlling build project cars, work with me streams. The ongoing perception being this is meant to add new content, not just rip whatever you can and just call it a day. Best exemplified when Quob tried to do something similar.
Not
A
her.
similar suit,
Anything
Quob,
for
a very
him,
well-known
man.
gaming creator, had made his own AI in an attempt to follow the similar trend of using AI to create content. To say his didn't go nearly as well would be charitable at best. At the start, he never outwardly...
Yeah, it's because, I mean, he started as a human. You can't just switch to AI and be like, yeah, I'm now an AI now. Like, people don't like change. Like, people never like change when it comes to things like this, of course.
He admitted that he had been using AI to generate this content. He kept that a secret until the rumors behind what he was doing had become too big to ignore, and eventually had to make a video finally addressing what the internet at large was starting to become privy to. That he was creating AI-generated slop. But his biggest mistake was how he went about creating this AI-generated slop. See, Quob's AI was mostly doing two things: reactions and Let's Plays. Because of the nature of Let's Plays, part of the appeal is watching the other person on screen play the game with their genuine reactions involved. With him not being present, it almost robs the viewers of that experience, knowing that what they were watching wasn't actually the person that they had parasocialized to for all of those years. As for his second type of content, that's where it started to get
Exactly.
really
It wasn't like he's just
because
new,
then we start
you know?
getting into the issues of the ethical uses of AI. Reactions themselves are already in sort of a mixed bag. I've made my own videos on the subject. You'll find thousands of others.
I mean, I think it really depends on reactions, right? Because, like, I feel like there's more ethical ways to go about it. Like, I try to react to I try to react to videos which are about, let's say, over I hopefully over about, like, let's say 2 to a year old is generally, like, I try and react to videos in that range, because it's, like, gone out of the algorithm, and I feel like you have to put in so, like, more effort to do it, like, my first, like, reaction videos, they ended up being, like, shorter, like, I didn't add much to the videos, but I try to add something, right? So I'm not just going, yeah, you know, I'm trying to add something where it's like, you know, I try and go for like double the original length of the video or something like that, because I feel like then it becomes more ethical as it goes along and less slop-like. I don't know.
Talking about the same things, with some even saying that it's tantamount to just straight theft, being that nothing goes back to the original creator. But if there's one thing that everyone on the internet can agree on, it's that reactions are literally the easiest type of content. When Quob uses his AI and then starts reacting to popular TikToks over the internet, it starts to feel almost
brain-rotted.
Like something's missing. And it's because of the same reason that somebody would watch something like a Let's Play. I'm here for the genuine reaction of this internet celebrity, and they didn't even bother to show up. What really tied it all together was the fact that since Quob never disclosed that what he was doing was mostly,
what if the gameplay is AI too?
Felt lied to because there's only a single reason to keep something like that hidden, and that's only if you fully intended on misleading them in the first place. But in either case, it wasn't taken well by his community because of the perception behind what he was doing. He made it explicitly so that he wouldn't have to be there himself and then just passively generate income, acting as a replacement for the entire reason you would become an internet personality. But why would somebody bother watching something that you didn't even bother to produce? But then you look at what Neuro is doing and it starts to make a lot more sense as to why it's way more acceptable. She never sought to replace the concept of a streamer or YouTuber, but instead she's the result of literal years of work getting a computer to learn how to play a video game and then giving it vocals. Like, over the years you could see Neuro growing with each iteration, so in a way the audience she fosters learned alongside her, ironically making her seem way more human than Quob AI ever could have been. When you start looking at it for that sort of an angle, you start realizing why so many people begin to give Neuro so much more credit. The main issue with AI when it invades art is because it necessitates the removal of the human experience, by removing the very thing that allows it to have any sort of meaning at all.
Exactly. You know, I agree with his point there, yes. So, thank you everyone for watching. I mean, that was cool. Hope you guys enjoyed. I try. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you soon. I stream here on YouTube for Monday to Thursday, and my schedule should be on my community tab. So I hope you enjoyed this, and see you then.